Can we go down you could shoot this down if we don't want to go down this road, but we're talking about learning from failure and growing from it. What about the people who, in the very few times where the failure was almost like a recognition that this isn't the path you want to go down anymore?
Yeah.
I think, what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's
that's rarely talked about.
Yeah. I mean, I think in CrossFit, it is a very, very, very important thing to accept that could be the route, that there could be people, and it's kind of a life cycle of competitors. It's why one of the big reasons in the podcast with Brandon, I recommend continuing to separate the open and quarterfinals and try to create this separation from the sport. Pushing yourself to max effort in CrossFit is not really a great longevity fitness strategy for most people. Now, there are some people who are so well built for the sport. They love it so much. They're so passionate. Their movement quality is so good, and they thrive in a competitive setting that might be doing competitive style CrossFit for life. But for most people, it's a catalyst for them to start to learn and explore competing, physicality, getting in shape, building muscle. And over time, people start to develop like, oh, I love all this other stuff about this, but I might not actually like the competition. Or I might not, I've been investing for 3 years and I'm just not good enough. Like, some people are trying to make the games for whatever it is, a decade. And then one time they go and they step up and they're just like, wow, I'm not going to do it. And that can be a really good epiphany type moment, not to think of it like a failure, but to think of it like, oh, this was my opportunity to start to reshape who I'm going to be in the world and what I'm going to take this competitive energy that I had here and put it into something else that's more meaningful to me, and learn from like, what are all the fitness things I liked from CrossFit, and kind of move on and redefine yourself.
I think because usually when the age you're doing CrossFit, I know we have a lot more teens and stuff doing it now, but usually we're all older. And I think when you look back as a kid, when you're growing up, there's a lot of things like that where you fail and learn and you move on from it and change course because of it. And you don't think twice about it. It's not like a big failure, but I think because we're a little older, it feels more like this is me now. And now it does feel like you're failing.
I mean, I think part of my issue was that I fell into the delusion that pushing yourself in a high intensity, high functional movement situation to max effort was, quote unquote, investing in my health. And over time I realized like, oh, you can be healthy and do this, but you have to put a lot of work into being able to maintain that intensity. You need hours of mobility training. You need to refine your technique so each rep is less stressful on you. You need to be really dialed in on your food because it has super high metabolic stress. You need great sleep. You probably need a lower stress lifestyle to be able to maintain it for a long period of time. You need to build all of these things. For most people, going in and like pumping some iron and doing some low intensity aerobic stuff and doing some gymnastics and yoga is like, well, that you can do for the rest of your life. Coming in and like snatching and handstand walking is probably not going to be that, but being able to reconcile those two things and say, okay, one of them is like sport performance. I do this because I like it. It's fun. I like the challenge. And then being able to separate it and use those experiences to just go redefine your fitness journey, I think is important. Not to look at it like, I'm going to do this forever.
You can't.
It's just, I mean, but there's a lot of people that are really high profile in the space that are saying that you can.
Yes. Well,
right?
I think that's also the marketing that we've been told from CrossFit. And I was looking, somebody sent me a photo, an old L1. You know how like the L1, they take pictures of everybody who, it was like, it was him, and I used to work with him in a gym, and then actually a few.
Who's him?
My friend Chris.
Okay.
And then I used to work as a coach with him and another coach, and he was like, hey, look, me and my friend were in this picture together before we even worked together. And then 2 pictures down was Noah, actually. It was Noah's L1, and Chris Spieler was in there. And I actually texted it to Noah. I was like, oh, my buddy just sent me this and you're in it. And I was just thinking about, like, I was looking at the picture and seeing people I still recognize that are in the CrossFit space. And then I was just thinking about how many of these people are still doing CrossFit, like actually using it as a fitness regimen. Because I still do CrossFit, but I would say a lot of my training is not necessarily training for the sport year round. And even going into this open, I felt less prepared and less fit than last year, but I actually finished higher. And there was a lot of reasons that went into that, including the tests and not getting exposed by burpees and deadlifts. But
where I beat you.
Yes, you did. But I've been doing it since 2010. So I've had so many years of just
so many reps
practicing. And so like my ability to maintain those skills and maintain a base level of fitness, I'm still fitter than other people that are working harder than me.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. But I have put the time in, and it's the same type of comparison trap when people see, like, I have athletes that came from a D1 gymnastics background, like get muscle ups on their second try.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some people 5 years to get that. And you just can't, you're not comparing the same things. And if you do that to yourself, I think it's just going to make you feel bad about yourself. But maybe there are other aspects of your training that actually set you up to be better at certain things that other people are not. And I think, generally speaking, most people put way too much time and energy into fearing what other people think about them. So like I have to, as the owner of Training Think Tank, I have to do CrossFit because I'm coaching people in CrossFit. Well, yeah, there might be some reasons that like that's good. So I remember thinking like I need to be able to feel the stimulus so that I know what I'm giving people.
Yeah.
But there's a point in time, a long time ago, where my clients were way fitter than me.
Yeah.
And it was impossible to be able to sustain that. Like,
how am I going to be able to feel doing something that is so far outside the realm of something I've ever been able to do? Right.
Sure.
Like you can't, at some point it has to become unrelatable, but you've seen it enough and you've coached people enough through it that you can still give practical guidance. But even for those athletes, they got to figure that out themselves. Like they got to figure out where they need to go to get that type of performance. So they need to go into their emotional state, into a technical state, like what's their process? And they do it through obtaining, I think, mindful reps of practice of competing.
Yeah. And why are you?
That's a great point, adding the mindful to it.
Yeah, it's not
you go
just
into
competing.
if you go into the reps and you're not paying attention to Perrin's point, filming yourself and all that, then
learning from it, what you do well, what next time you get into this situation that you failed in on this time, what are you going to do differently in that next time? Like, and if you're not paying attention to what you're doing,
what percentage of people do you think are actually paying attention? Is it a lot of people?
No.
No, I think it's small.
And I think
like how small? Let's make a guess. I know we're just bullshitting, but what percentage of the people who say they want to be competitive, not just the average, gym goer, of the people who say they want to do better and that's their goal is to be a better competitor, what percentage is actually doing that?
10 in the world, 10 people like who are giving their full focus to it, or are you saying?
Like we'll go back to watching the videos. Like what? Like,
There
20%.
There are so many things that you could be doing. I don't think you can do everything. Like if you're not a professional athlete, you literally don't have time.
Yeah. But he's saying like that you're actually putting the effort in with the time that you're dedicating to it, that are paying attention.
But I would say those
to
same
the
people
process.
probably, if we went and looked at their screen time, scrolled TikTok or something for a long time.
I think there are a lot of people that think they're doing more than they are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
But I also think there are people that they have families and they have jobs, and like if this is a hobby for you, like do you need to be stressing yourself out, like trying to cross every T and dot every I? And I think some people are competing for the wrong reasons.
Oh, no, you just opened up a whole different can of worms. Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed this clip from episode 125 of the Corpus Animus Podcast. To hear the full episode where Max and Perrin discuss training your mentality to be a better competitor, social media and toxic positivity, your actions aligning with your goals, accepting that you no longer want to compete in CrossFit, and finding out if you are competing in CrossFit for the wrong reasons. Check out the audio version on all major podcast providers or peep the other clips right here on YouTube.